Assalamu alaikum. I hope I'm talking to the Faculty of Health Sciences, Bachelor of Science in Nursing. This morning, let's look at research methods as our course unit, particularly focusing on the topic known as thesis proposal writing. Thesis is a dissertation, but proposal writing means a plan we are going to develop before we write a full thesis. By way of introduction, it should be initially clarified that according to the University Research Institute and our graduate school regulations, research proposals for undergraduate programs and postgraduate diplomas should not be more than 12 pages. And those for master should not be more than 15 pages, while PhD students should not have more than 25 pages when they are writing a proposal for their dissertation. When it comes to reference, it should be done for undergraduates and postgraduate diplomas and master's students. Whereas for PhDs, we shall use bibliography. Furthermore, in all cases, the writing is 1.5 spacing, font 12 in Times New Romans. It should be on an A4 page with page numbers to the bottom, but right aligned or aligned to the right. The candidate should submit 5 spiral bound copies to the vetting committee. During the time of vetting your research proposal, we need 5 copies. That should be noted. And this is how your proposal will look like, starting from title page. Okay, title page should have the topic of study, the author's name with the registration number, and if you have any previous qualifications, they should be included at this time. Okay, look at the sample next slide to see how it is arranged. So it's arranged. Here we are. Somebody did a research and he says the challenges of service provision in non-government organizations. His name was Muhammad Ali, and that was his registration number. Okay, and this is the writing, how it should look like on your cover. Research proposal presented to the Faculty of Health Sciences in partial fulfillment of an award of a Bachelor of Science in Nursing of Eelo University. You put the name of the place, the country, the date of submission, 20th May, or May 2020. So the contents of the proposal are as listed. We are going to look at them in detail and in turn in the following slides. Just peruse through, then I explain them in detail. Okay. However, style of documentation will be as follows. Okay, we shall use footnotes or endnotes. A choice of style should clearly be specified. Our lists of references will use APA format, whereby alphabetically by the author's last name comes, and we start with A, B, alphabetical order up to the last letter Z. The bibliography of the proposal should not be long, but sufficiently indicative of the sources of researcher is going to consult. We should know your source of information and list it so that we can verify the reliability of such information. So here we are explaining the contents of a research proposal or a thesis proposal. Title of your research proposal is very important. This will guide you throughout your research, and we should consistently follow it. If it's given as we go down to the introduction, background, statement of the problem, scope. It should be reflected as we study down. So when we are starting to write in chapter 1, we start with 1.1 as our introduction to the study. This is a brief description of what the research proposal is about. It should not be confused with background. This is only a brief description of what the research is about. However, let's look at the background in the next slide. Background to the study is the choice of a specific subject for research. Okay, it gives the context, it gives the origin of the problem being studied, it gives the history of the problem, it gives the current situation of the problem. Okay, as you can see, it's different from the above introduction to the study, which is only a brief of what the study is about. But this one talks about the problem. Okay, and you can know that the various elements considered at this stage should be related among them to show how they lead to the problem that is going to be isolated and treated by the researcher in the next slide of statement of the problem. Now, statement of the problem, the researcher isolates or puts aside the problem that he or she finds to be particularly crucial and needs to be looked into. Isolating the problem entails stating it in clear and specific terms as much as possible at this initial stage. This delimitation helps the researcher to manage and deal with it effectively. Okay, stating the problem of study could be said to involve stating how things are and how they should be, or simply the situation is this or that, and yet it ought to be like this or that. Now, also important in part 4, we look at the scope of the study. The scope of the study, these are the limits of the study, limits or boundary of the study. Boundary of study can be looked at in terms of time, location, and context or subject. Time taken to the research, time the research covers, the area the research will be done as, location or geographical scope, the subject or discipline we are going to look at is also important. So in looking at scope, remember it is threefold: time, geographical area or scope, and then contexts. 5 deals with definition of key terms. There are terms that are not familiar to other people who are not in your profession. You as a researcher, you should get key terms and explain them to the author. I beg your pardon, to the reader. You as the author, explain all difficult terms. It takes 1 to 2 pages. Purpose of the study. It can also be known as the aim of the study or objective of the study. Okay, when you're going to the field to look for information, in order for you to be forecast, you list objectives. I recommend that we list 4 objectives that we are going to study in the field before we go. You cannot go minus an objective, or else it will be an aimless field work. We also have what we call hypothesis of the study or research questions. Hypotheses of the study are major assumptions you should look into. Now, here I should advise you, when you use the hypothesis, we don't use the research questions. Okay? However, let's first understand what it means. A researcher always posts a possible solution to the problem, okay, which is actually visualized, and this is called a hypothesis for quantitative researchers. Okay, a hypothesis is a provisional supposition put forth to account for known facts and to serve as a starting point for further investigation, by which it may prove or be disapproved. Hence, a hypothesis is an assumption of causality, a proposed interconnection among phenomena, a tentative solution to be verified by the researcher's investigation. In a single study, one can have a number of hypotheses, although it may be easier to have one. I can give you an example. When you're studying about a topic like poor breastfeeding by mothers in Boroma district, you could have an assumption that lack of public health education leads to poor breastfeeding. That could be your assumption. It may be correct, it may be wrong. If it is wrong, disapprove it. If it's correct, approve it correct. However, a research question should be used at our level. Research questions should be derived from the research objectives above. Each research objective we have developed above should be converted into a research question. Remember that a research question is something that makes you anxious. It makes you unsettled. You want to discover something. You ask yourself questions. If you have a research question, then you have a research. A research question will force you into finding out the truth. Why are things the way they are? How can we do this? How can we solve this? Those could be research questions. And it will drive you into the field to look for answers. We should also look at significance of the study. Some people call them justification, motivation, or rationale. Okay, simply this is the importance of your study. Okay, or it will show why and how the report is necessary or of great value, more so having great effect or influence to our community or the community in which we live, the government, your university library can use your study, organization you work can also use it, or you can use it for your future studies, or any other person can have it as future studies source of information. Lastly, in chapter 1 of our research proposal or thesis proposal, we look at the theoretical and conceptual framework. I will summarize this. This is the mapping of your research. In this area, we shall use diagrams to illustrate the causes, the effects, and intervening factors of your study. In nearly all studies, there are outstanding theories or ideas which act as internal structure of the study. This structure gives the study a logical frame or a logical explanation, particularly because most studies are only additional to the already existing body of knowledge and not the first ones. Therefore, every study is depending on the previous studies whose ideas are already known. These ideas, especially if they have been significant and have had extensive influence in their fields, serve to support the fresh ones. Moreover, every study relates to theory, either to disprove it or confirming it to improve upon it. Whereas the theoretical framework tends to refer to the theoretical critique with a view to identifying the most appropriate to one's study. The conceptual framework tends to refer to the diagrammatic presentation, to the logic flow of the ideas presented in the dissertation. We shall look at this in details when we are actually developing it practically. Chapter 1 is complete with the above brief. So chapter 2 deals with literature review. In summary, this is a review of already existing data, which is in line with your topic and your objectives. Here we shall use work of authors who are already in the shelves. We shall use articles already published, books published, to collect literature review. The researcher review a sample list of literary sources closely related to the research topic. This list of sources does not have to be exhaustive. Okay, it can have gaps, and that's why you're there to actually research and have those gaps covered, but should be adequate to demonstrate the existing gaps or problems. For such source, the researcher briefly mentions and relates the major ideas raised to the problem, identifies or highlights the gap, the lacuna, okay, those are the gap, lacuna, and states what one intends to add. This is crucial to the authenticity of the research because it points to the novelty of the contribution of the researcher vis-a-vis the contribution of the reviewed sources. So chapter 2 is normally the biggest, and it is derived from research objectives and research questions. So those objectives will actually show you where to get the information. If it is to study factors of a certain problem, then look up into the books that already have that literature. If it is solutions, you will still find some literature about the solutions. Let's go to the next chapter, which is research methodology. This actually is the design of the research. Under this section, the researcher precisely explains the steps he or she intends to follow to accomplish the research. The description of one's methodology should not be so generic as to apply to any research. It should be fairly specific, showing particularly how a researcher is going to handle each stage and area. In the case of doctoral research, which is not our level, but it's good to know because I know you are academicians, it is expected that the research is elaborate. It goes to some detail. This section is crucial to the study because the objectivity or believability of the result should depend on the results. Okay, for those of you who will be academicians, know that at this level we shall actually be brief, but when you advance to master's and PhD, you should always be elaborate. The analysis widens. Okay, we should always have a tentative table of our dissertation content. Okay, the researcher gives a tentative outline of the table of contents of his or her work. Okay, it's very important. You list whatever will be in your dissertation, but this is now in a proposal. It may be less or more, but it's good to have the exact contents. Always look and actually predict some constraints. We call them anticipated constraints, if any. You list them. Research activity may be affected by different problems, which could be either political or financial or security or ethical or lack of relevant sources. These problems may undermine the work plan or even the objectivity of the results of the research. Some problems may be superfluous and coincidental and may not be measured, but these that are seen or those that are seen to have the potential to affect our belief or believability of the research should be mentioned. Okay, for instance, language is actually a very big constraint to some people. You may be doing research in a country where they don't speak English, they speak French, they speak a language you don't understand. So you need to get an interpreter as a way of mitigation. Above all, the researcher should be honest and use objective methods to arrive at the desired results. Otherwise, it's not respected. Ethical consequences have a potential of affecting the researcher itself and the people for whom it is supposed to serve, as well as those doing the research. Ethical considerations are very important when you're doing research. The researcher has to observe research norms that promote and ensure respect for all human subjects and protect their health and rights. While the primary purpose of medical research is to generate new knowledge, this goal can never take precedence over the rights and interests of individual research subjects. Secrecy is very important as far as ethics are concerned. Whatever you see in hospitals, whatever you see in the field should never be disclosed to people who are not academicians. Okay? So documentation, footnotes, endnotes, very important. Here, the style has to be specific. It has to be told. And the notes need to be accurately compiled according to our university regulations. Precise presentation of footnotes, which may include references, okay? It should be indicated at all times, okay? Remember, we use APA when we are doing a reference, as mentioned above, okay? To continue, still with the reference and bibliography, the bibliography of the proposal should not be long, but sufficient. Okay, sufficiently indicative of the sources the researcher is going to consult. This is very important. And still, I emphasize our style is APA when we're doing referencing. You need a work plan. This is like a timetable of how you do your work. It's a schedule. What will you do now and next? If it is maybe 3 months, those are 12 weeks. Divide your work plan in 12 parts and list the activities and the time they will be accomplished. Budget estimates are very important. We should know how much money we shall spend when we are doing our research. Before you go to the field to collect data, you should know the items you will need to complete the activities and how much money they will actually take. Refer to how a budget is drawn in our next chapters. Very important appendices, authority letters, letters to respondents, interview guide, questionnaires, indexes, word list. All these are important. Authority letter could be written by the faculty. Then your supervisor can write letters to the respondents. Respondents are people who will give you data in the field. So for the sake of our university, I'm mandated to give you these letters so that nobody can doubt you when you are actually collecting data in the field. So whoever will finish his research proposal when you're going out to collect data for dissertation or your thesis, you come to the office, I give you a letter of introduction, authority letters, to allow you to go to the hospitals and collect this information. Examination guide for proposal vetting. Very important for you. This is how you will be actually marked. Okay, the number of pages of the proposal should be decided by the individual schools. However, I told you before that for undergraduate, postgraduate diplomas, masters, not more than 12 pages. Then for masters, it is 15 pages, and the PhD 25 pages maximum. Okay, I think this may not be necessary for us now. Those are enough for us. Yeah, undergraduate, 12 pages, masters 15, then PhD 25 pages. Of course, at our level, we need only for undergraduate 12 pages. That is the maximum we should have for our thesis proposal. 2, the examiner is expected to examine the student along the following critical areas. You know, as students know this because it will apply to you. 1, is the proposal hypothesis driven? Okay, how do we see the questions answered? That could be it. Is the background well referenced with critical evaluation of up-to-date knowledge? Okay, did you bring out the problem clearly? The origin of the problem. Is the study relevant to the best concepts within the study area? Okay, very important when you're choosing a topic. Don't choose a topic of politics and you are a nurse. Does the student describe the data to be collected and how it will be collected? The methodology, we have looked at that. Okay, do the methods and procedures chosen directly test the hypothesis? All the research questions as for you people who are undergraduates, and answer the posed questions. It is important to know that your study will actually answer the questions and the objectives you have. Are the sample size, subject population, and method of analysis clearly described? Okay, they should be clearly described, and justified. Very important. Okay. So outcomes of a proposal vetting. You should understand that there are 3 possible outcomes of a proposal vetting. Okay. Acceptance with minor revisions. Okay. So acceptance with major revisions, then rejection. Under this outcome, the committee can decide that the proposal is unacceptable. Okay. Among the grounds for the decision would be unsuitability of the problem, a poorly prepared proposal document, a poor research plan and procedure, and a poor understanding of the area. They can actually reject your proposal. If the proposal is rejected, a proposal form is filled, as you will see sooner than later, with a department and placed in the student's file to document this decision. The student can improve the proposal or begin a new one. This could be done within the same supervisor. Since we don't have enough supervisors this semester, given the problem at hand, maybe the teacher who's talking to you and a few lecturers will help to supervise you. So he should or she must remedy the weakness and submit for vetting. Okay, I hope you can now prepare a research proposal before we go into the field to collect data and write a research report or a dissertation. Thank you for watching. You can like the video, subscribe. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So do you have any question? My students, if you have any question, please, you're free to ask. In your free time, you can come to office and get more tips about how to write your research proposal before we go in for the final research report or dissertation. Wassalamu alaikum.